Hi friends, this is Sarvajang here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good and safe. And today let us discuss about OSPF point-to-point multi-point over a frame relay network. So always it will treat point to multi-point as a collection of individual point-to-point link. So there is no DR and BDR election. So default point-to-point multi-point mode is broadcast. So since it is a broadcast, the neighbors are determined automatically. So now let us go to the router and let us configure the individual neighbor relationship. Before that, I will configure this frame relay, right? It's a frame relay network for a point to multi-point, and this is a frame relay switch I have configured with the individual PVCs 102 and 103. This is a remote network 201 and 301. This is a spoke or DLCA, right? So DLC is a data link connection identifier which is locally significant. So for R1 to R2, this is a virtual circuit. For this virtual circuit, I have assigned a data link connection identifier 102. Similarly, for R2 to R1, 201. And for R1 to R3, the data link connection identifier is 103. And for R3 to R1, it is 301. So this is a frame relay switch. So now let us go and configure the individual neighbor relationship. So let us go to R1. So go to the configuration mode, interface serial 2 by 0. So this is serial interface 2 by 0, right? So now let us configure the frame relay network, encapsulation frame relay. So that's the first thing I have to do. Since it is a frame relay network for a point to multi-point, I have to enable the encapsulation frame relay. Then I have to enable the IP OSPF network. That is a non-broadcast, right? So IP OSPF network point to multi-point. Sorry, it is a point to multi-point. It is a broadcast network. So I configured as a IP OSPF network point to multi-point. Similarly, go to R2 and go to configuration mode and the specific interface serial 2 by 1, right? So go to interface serial 2 by 1 and IP OSPF network is point to multi-point. So if it is a non-broadcast, you have to specify as non-broadcast. So since the default is a broadcast, I have to specify only point to multi-point. Then I have to enable the encapsulation frame relay network. Similar way, go to R3 and go to the interface mode. Interface serial 2 by 2 encapsulation frame relay and IP OSPF network is a point to multi-point, right? Point to multi-point. So successfully configured for R1, R2 and R3. I enabled the frame relay network and also I configured the point to multi-point on all these three routers. So since it's a broadcast network, the neighbors are determined automatically, right? So now let us do what we can do. So now we have to configure the routing protocol OSPF. Let us enable OSPF router OSPF 100 and the network is 192.168.1.0. Since I configured 1.0, right, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, network is always 1.0 on all the three routers. This is a wildcard mask followed by area. Similarly, go to R2, go to the configuration mode, router OSPF 100 and the network is 192.168.1.0 followed by 0.0.25 area 0. Similar way, go to R3 and configure the routing protocol. So router OSPF 100 and the network is 192.168.1.0 0.0.25 and area is 0, right? So first I enabled the encapsulation frame relay on all the routers. Then we have configured the point to multi-point mode on all these three routers. So since it is a point to multi-point, always treat that as a collection of point-to-point link, right? So there is no DR BDR election. So always DR and BDR election is recorded in case of multi-access network, right? So since it is a collection of point-to-point link, it will treat this as a there is no DR and the BDR election in case of this point to multi-point network. So now let us go and check the individual neighbor relationship. Show IP OSPF neighbor. So it is already established a neighbor relationship. Similarly, go to R2, show IP OSPF neighbor, and go to R3, show IP OSPF neighbor. So here node not required to configure the neighbor relationship since it is a broadcast network. So the neighbors are automatically determined. This is an hub and the spoke. So hub has two spoke neighbors, spoke 1 and spoke 2. So the spoke will be having the individual neighbor relationship. So similar, go to R3. So R3 has only one neighbor, that is a spoke, right? That's a hub network. 1.1 is a main office router. Similarly, go to R2 and check the OSPF neighbor, show IP OSPF neighbor. So it has established a neighbor relationship with the main office router, right? So let us go to R1 So it has two neighbors, right? 1.2 and 1.3. So it has successfully established a neighbor relationship. So this is an example of point 2 multi-point mode, broadcast mode. Since it is a broadcast, neighbors are automatically determined and there is no DR and BDR election. Let us also check the frame relay status. Show frame relay PVC. So you're able to see the PVC is active for both 102 and 103. That is a DLC, right? So the mapping DLC to IP address mapping is done by frame relay inverse ARP. So DLC is a local significant for each and every router, right? R1 to R2 102 and R2 R1 is 201. For the communication purpose, we need to enable inverse ARP. So by default, the frame relay inverse ARP is already enabled. In case if it is not enabled, we have to manually enable it. So this is how the point to multi-point over a frame relay network works. I hope you understood. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe me for more videos. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.